because we're beautiful. Future. Whatever. My regular niffler.
Hello beautiful people, how's it going? I'm back with another video. I'm sorry to keep you guys waiting. I just really needed to nap today, but today we're going to be talking about The Last of the Starks, the 4th episode in the final season of Game of Thrones Season 8. And wow, this was my second favorite episode of the season so far. I know there's only been 4, but this is definitely my second, right after The Long Night, the Battle of Winterfell, last week's episode. And some stuff happened in this episode, wow. Wow, really? Okay, so the last night ends with Arya killing the Night King, which was, again, one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, and I was so happy with it. But of course, this is the aftermath. So the very first scene, we get to see the goodbye to Jorah and Theon. That being one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode, because you get to understand that Sansa never really got to thank Theon for being a Stark or ending up like returning to the Starks and saving her from Ramsay, which he did, which I now remember as I'm rewatching the show. And that's really important for his character, because even though he did get a redemption with Bran, he still has an entire family to repent to. And so I just thought that was really nice. And also Dany gets to say goodbye to Jorah. Even though I'm not really invested in that relationship, I said last week that I respect Jorah because, you know, he's brave for loving someone who's never gonna love him back. It's a brave thing to do, honestly. Yeah. So the next scene is the dinner scene, and I wrote dinner tension because wow, that scene was just unbelievable, honestly. It was just like excruciating almost, as I was watching and saying, all right guys, we have no time for this. But again, I did really end up enjoying it. But again, I did feel like we were wasting a bit of time, but there are some really great moments that we got in that, especially when we got to see a Starbucks cup, thank you to Kit Harington, in the middle of the scene. I didn't originally notice it, but now that it's on Instagram and Twitter, it's all I've been seeing, and that's all anybody wants to talk about. Apart from the apparent racism from D&D. I see you people on Twitter. I don't know if I agree with you, but I see you. Alright, so one of the main points I wrote about the scene is that Dany tries, and I was watching this episode with a friend, and I mentioned, Daenerys is really trying. I thought that she was going to take credit for everything. I thought she was going to take credit for killing the Night King, for bringing the dragons in, but she didn't. She commended Jon, and she also commended Arya Stark, which I think is brilliant. I think that shows you that she actually is trying to listen to other people and to take their advice, in that she has to be nice to be a good ruler, because she has to be loved and supported, and she's noticing that that's not working. Now, unfortunately, it's not really working in her favor, because Tormund really is bigging Jon up at this point, and he is like, wow, he is really like putting the shits on him, because he's basically saying that, you know, Jon died and came back to life. Jon rode a dragon. Jon saved us from the Long Night. And Daenerys sees that even after she basically solidifies Gendry, which was another scene where I also felt like she was doing a lot, and that's obviously big for Gendry's character. And she just doesn't get it in return. And there's a really, really nice scene where Daenerys is just staring at Jon, and then Sansa, and then Tyrion and Jaime, and she's just really alone because she's just lost Jorah, and all she has left is Missandei. It's not funny. It's really not funny. So yes, Daenerys solidifies Gendry, which again was another great scene, because you thought she might have executed him, because she told him that your brother was the person who overthrew my family from the throne, which is just, oh, not overthrew, usurped? I don't know. There's a really amazing scene, a scene I really like, between Sansa and the Hound. I think this is the first time you see them together since season 2, when the Hound fled King's Landing and he asked Sansa to come with him. And he calls her Little Bird, as he did back in season 2. And he says that, you know, she's really been, you know, kind of destroyed by all of these people. And there's a really interesting line, one of my favorite lines from the episode, actually probably my favorite line from the episode, when Sansa says, if it weren't for Littlefinger or Ramsay, I would have been that little bird all my life. And I really like that, mainly because I really enjoy Sansa as a character. I really, really, really enjoy Sansa as a character. And seeing that she acknowledges that she wouldn't be where she is if it weren't for those douchebags who destroyed her life, really. I mean, I miss Littlefinger, but he was a real douchebag to her. Because he was using her as a pawn for his personal gain. Gain. Like Clegane. Anyways. So that was a scene I really liked. And there was also an interesting scene between Bran and Tyrion, which I know isn't everything that we're gonna get. I know, like, this scene was confirmation that there is gonna be a huge reveal with Bran by the end of the show. Because this character cannot be this mysterious and also useless at the same time without meaning something. No, Bran, something is gonna happen, or Bran is gonna figure something out, and we're all gonna be like, wow, Bran is so essential to this game, and it's gonna be great. That's how it's gonna go. Because other than that, there's no other explanation to having useless scenes between Bran and Tyrion, apart from when Bran says, I don't want anymore, and he tells Tyrion that he shouldn't envy him because Bran's always living in the past. I also thought that was really interesting. So again, really great character moments. And then of course you have the scene between Brienne, Jaime, Pod, Tyrion, and Tormund. Wow, so they're basically playing a drinking game. And unfortunately, Tyrion asks Brienne if she's a virgin, and she gets very upset because she is a virgin. Which then leads to her and Jaime having sex, which isn't, like, I don't know why. Like, I like Brienne, I like Jaime. I'm fine with them being together, I just don't, like, religiously support it like I support Arya and Gendry. Which, unlucky for me, is something that happens right here when Gendry asks Arya to marry him. And, wow, she's very attractive. But she refuses because she says, I'm not a lady, which is exactly what she said to Ned in the first season. But again, I just don't understand. You don't have to like lose all sense of your freedom to get married to someone, and that just leaves Gendry brokenhearted, and it just, like, it makes Arya just a tiny bit unlikable, just a tiny bit, even though Arya is my #1 favorite character. Love her to death. In fact, some of the stuff she told Jon in this episode I felt were really essential so he can wake up a bit, because he clearly hasn't. Yeah. Then, of course, there's a scene when Daenerys and Jon are having a conversation about Jon's lineage, and Daenerys tells him that he can't tell anyone about the secret, and they have an argument because he really wants to tell his sisters Sansa and Arya. And Bran already knew. I was like, why doesn't he want to tell his brother? And it's horrifying because you get to see Daenerys come back to the idea, right? You were trying, but again, all you want is this Iron Throne, and you just don't care what it destroys or the relationships that it taints. And it's not a good look for her. It really isn't. And again, brings her character back to unlikability. But you do get to feel remorse for her in this episode. I really did. And I was really aggravated with her the past couple of episodes. You guys have seen it all, but I guess that's how that is. When Jon tells the girls, I understand that a lot of people on Twitter were complaining that, Jon told the girls and made them swear, and then all of a sudden Sansa goes and tells everyone. But when you think about it, this isn't Sansa being like a gossip. No, this is Sansa plotting. Sansa realizes that Dany isn't the legitimate, she isn't the main legitimate heir to the Iron Throne, and she finds out that it's her brother. She's gonna tell Tyrion because she knows, because Sansa's very clever, as you guys have seen in Season 7. She knows that Tyrion is gonna tell Varys, and Varys and Tyrion are gonna have conflicting opinions on it. It's excellent. In fact, it's actually excellent writing. I'm pretty fine with this season's writing. I know a lot of people aren't, but I personally am really having a good time, and I'm enjoying it. And I hope you guys are too. And not taking it too seriously, because while I understand, for example, in this episode in particular, people travel at light speed from places to other places, and you just have to just give that suspension of disbelief a try and just enjoy it for what it is. And that's what I've been doing, and I really enjoyed it. Then there's a really amazing scene between Arya and the Hound where they're leaving, and the Hound tells Arya that he has some business in King's Landing that he wants to do, and she says that she does too. And I thought it was really interesting that they both say that they don't plan on coming back. I don't know whether that's them both thinking that they're going to die, or that they don't want to come back to Winterfell, which I don't feel like that's reasonable for any of their characters, so I really hope it's that they think they're going to die, and both of them are going to come out of it amazing, because we support the Hound, and we support Arya. Let's hope, or at least pray, because after today's episode, this was brutal. Like, wow, really, really brutal. Then, of course, wow, we have the goodbye scene between Jon and Sam, which again, I think this might have been my #1 favorite scene, like in terms of character moments, apart from Missandei, but that's a later conversation. Gilly tells Jon that she's pregnant, and they're gonna name the boy Jon if it's a boy. And like that just makes me very that just makes me very happy. That just makes me so happy. And Sam tells Jon that he was the best friend he ever had. And after rewatching the entire show, I think the relationship between Jon and Sam is one of my favorite elements of it, because you know, people like Jon don't really hang out with people like Sam. Do you know what I mean? And it's very nice. It's just so nice, and I love and respect that relationship, and so that scene was really great. Apart from the fact that Jon just decided to leave Ghost in Winterfell, didn't bother me as much as it bothered everyone, but it did bother me just the slightest. Then we have the transition into when, wow, everyone is traveling to Dragonstone, and oh wow, and Daenerys is on Drogon, and Rhaegal is right next to her, and they're flying through, and then Rhaegal gets shot. Literally shot multiple times by Euron Greyjoy. I don't know how I feel about that character, but okay. Real villain, who then turns the entire army onto the boats, and everyone sinks. It's horrifying, like really, it is horrifying. Like for real. And then you kind of find out that Missandei's been captured, and everyone's just like, oh shit, this is bad. Really bad. Then of course, immediate cut to Cersei and Euron, and turns out that Cersei did capture Missandei, and she put her back in chains, and she says so much for the breaker of chains, which is really sad, because I read this thing online that Missandei started off in chains and she died back in chains, and that's really upsetting. But again, I don't take it from the racism route, because everyone on this show dies. A lot of people on Twitter are all like, you know what, Game of Thrones killed their only black female character, which, okay, I completely understand, and I completely respect your anger and your frustration, but I personally think everyone dies on Game of Thrones. You literally had Shireen die back in season 5, and she's a child. So, the deaths in the show aren't discriminative, and she didn't die because she was black. She died because she was Dany's best friend, and Cersei wanted revenge and to send a message. That's it. It's nothing personal. I don't know. I don't really like to get into like the political side of my entertainment, but that's just how I feel about it. And your opinions are valid, and your frustrations are valid, and you know, I respect that. But it's just, I feel like it wasn't in that light, and it just is a bit frustrating when people want to put it in that light. But you know, who knows? And then of course, the final scene of the episode, the big scene that I want to talk about, which really made me feel like this is classic Game of Thrones, when, wow, they're at King's Landing, and Tyrion tries to negotiate with Cersei, and really cleverly mentions that she should do this for her child, not for herself or for her people, because she doesn't care about herself or her people. And things don't go so well, and she asks Missandei to say any last words, while Daenerys and Grey Worm are literally staring up at her, and she says Dracarys, and the Hound, not the Hound, the Mountain, his brother, literally just like slashes her throat, and she falls off, like literally she falls off the top of the gate. It was horrifying. It really was horrifying. It reminded me of the Red Wedding. or whatever we had close to it, because it, like that visual and that shot where you can literally see her falling and Grey Worm turns around because, you know, even though he's unsullied, he's so strong, like he had to turn away to see, like, from seeing that. That was shocking. And again, it just goes to show you that even though, you know, see, last week we were all like, okay, not a lot of people died. Grey Worm and Missandei are still alive. Jaime and Brienne are still alive. How is this happening? And this episode comes and you're just like, crap, I don't know if I wanted this. But again, this episode gave us the action and it gave us the politics, which is everything I wanted. So it was something that last week's episode didn't have and the last two episodes didn't have, because either of them had either or. And so I'm so excited for the last two episodes coming up, and I am so upset that this show is ending. I really am. But I just don't know what else to say, because we are really getting into the meat of it, and it is getting horrifying. Like, honestly, at this extent, I don't even know how to process. What an episode, honestly. I'm very impressed. And I really hope you guys had a good time watching it. And I'm so sorry I'm late. Again, I really needed to nap. I really needed to nap. But again, thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you guys love to hear what I have to say for like 20 minutes. So thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a like and a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel to see a lot more Harry Potter and Game of Thrones content. Bye, guys. Honestly, I love these videos. I love these videos.